You're listening or watching Radio Afiju. The time is 3 p.m.
Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfíjù. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfíjù. Rédíò. Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfíjù. Lórí WhatsApp. Àfíjù. Instagram. Àfíjù. Facebook. Àfíjù. Lórí X. Àfíjù. Lórí YouTube. Àfíjù. Lórí TikTok. Àfíjù. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfíjù. Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfíjù. Rédíò. Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfíjù. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfíjù. Rédíò Àfíjù. Rédíò Àfíjù. Rédíò Àfíjù.
Stay informed with news on Radio Afiju.
First, a look at the highlights. Serap sues federal government NCC over 50% telecom tariff hike. Rebels kill 13 foreign peacekeepers in DR Congo. CIA believes lab leak most likely caused COVID outbreak. Good afternoon and welcome to the World News on Radio Afiju. My name is Pearl Durotoye. The news in detail. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has filed a lawsuit against the administration of President Bola Tinubu and the Nigerian Communications Commission over what is described as the arbitrary, unconstitutional, unlawful, unfair and unreasonable 50% increase in telecom tariffs. The NCC recently approved the tariff hike, which raised the cost of a 1-minute call from 11 naira to 16.5 naira, the price of 1 gigabyte of data from 287.5 naira to 431.25 naira, and SMS charges from 4 naira to 6 naira. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court Abuja, Serap contends that the tariff hike infringes on citizens' rights to freedom of expression and access to information as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution and international treaties. Serap argued that the decision disregards the principle of legality, which requires fairness, reasonableness, and adherence to due process in the exercise of statutory powers. The increase comes amidst Nigeria's economic challenges, with a recent report by the National Bureau of Statistics revealing that 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. President Bola Tinubu condoled with the government and the people of Enugu State over the fuel tanker explosion which resulted in the loss of lives on Saturday. The fuel tanker reportedly spiraled out of control and burst into flames while navigating the Ugwu-Onyema section of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway on Saturday. It comes just days after a similar incident in Niger State which claimed over 80 lives. Tinubu commiserated with the families of the deceased and the injured and prayed for the repose of the souls of the departed and quick recovery for those receiving medical treatment. The president called for caution and adherence to safety measures among road users, particularly fuel tanker operators. The Lagos state government has announced plans to remove illegal structures and extensions obstructing drainage channels and public infrastructure in the Okearin-Akpombo market and surrounding areas on Lagos Island. Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, made this known during an inspection tour earlier today. He also disclosed that 4 buildings under construction at Alakoro, Ereko Market area had been sealed for blocking traffic and violating the state's environmental laws. According to Wahab, the enforcement drive is part of the government's efforts to address illegal developments and ensure compliance with physical planning regulations. The commissioner emphasized that enforcement will begin in earnest on Tuesday. At least 27 Nigerian soldiers were killed in a jihadist suicide attack in the northeast, two army sources told reporters today. On Friday, troops launched a ground offensive on a stronghold of Islamic State-affiliated militants in a wasteland straddling Borno and Yobe states. The military officers, who asked not to be identified, said a suicide bomber rammed the explosives-laden vehicle concealed in thick foliage into a convoy of advancing troops targeting the Islamic State West Africa province ISWAP in Timbuktu Triangle. ISWAP split from the mainstream Boko Haram in 2016 to become the dominant military faction in the northeast. Away from Nigeria, 13 soldiers serving with peacekeeping forces in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been killed in clashes with rebels from the M23 group. The South African military said 9 of its soldiers died helping to push back a rebel advance on the city of Goma in eastern DR Congo, while 3 Malawians and a Uruguayan were also killed. French President Emmanuel Macron said he had spoken to the leaders of both DR Congo and Rwanda amid global calls for the violence to end. The United Nations is pulling all non-essential staff out of Goma, a city of more than 1 million people, as the fighting intensifies. In Asia, South Korea's prosecutors indicted impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol earlier today on charges of leading an insurrection with a short-lived imposition of martial law on December 3. The charges are unprecedented for a South Korean president, and if convicted, Yoon could face years in prison for a shock martial law decree which sought to ban political and parliamentary activity and control the media. His move set off a wave of political upheaval in Asia's fourth largest economy and a top U.S. ally, with the prime minister also impeached and suspended from power and a number of top military officials indicted for their roles in the alleged insurrection. Anti-corruption investigators last week recommended charging the jailed Yoon, who was impeached by parliament and suspended from his duties on December 14. In Europe, polls are underway in Belarus for a presidential election, with longtime leader Alexander Lukashenko expected to extend his more than 3 decades in power in the absence of any real opposition. Voters began casting their ballots at 8 a.m. local time this morning in the country's first presidential vote since Lukashenko crushed mass protests against his government in 2020 and permitted Russia to use Belarusian territory for its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The 70-year-old former collective farm boss has been in power in Belarus since 1994 and is seeking a 7th term. The country's last presidential election in 2020 ended with nationwide protests unprecedented in the history of the country of 9 million people. The opposition and Western nations accused Lukashenko of rigging the election and imposed sanctions. In response, his government launched a sweeping crackdown, leaving more than 1,000 people imprisoned, including Nobel Peace Prize winner Ales Bialyatsky, founder of the Vienna Human Rights Center. Ukraine's military said Ukrainian air defenses downed 50 out of 72 drones launched by Russia overnight and attacked one of Russia's largest oil refineries. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had used 1,250 aerial bombs, over 750 attack drones, and more than 20 missiles to attack Ukraine over the past week. Kyiv's general staff said its forces attacked Russia's Zayan oil refinery against last night, and explosions and fire were reported in the target area. Russia's defense ministry also said that its air defense systems destroyed 15 Ukrainian drones over Russia and 2 sea drones in the Black Sea. It said 8 drones were downed over the Ryazan region, 6 drones were destroyed in the Kursk region, and 1 drone was hit over the Belgorod region overnight. In the Americas, the CIA now believes the COVID-19 pandemic is more likely to have originated from a laboratory leak in China than from animals. It follows the release of new analysis that began under the Biden administration at the request of former CIA Director William Burns. For years, the CIA has said it is unclear whether COVID-19 was the result of a lab incident or a natural origin. Its latest assessment points the finger at China, even while acknowledging it has low confidence in its own conclusion, noting in its statement both scenarios, lab and natural origin, remain plausible. The findings are not based on new evidence, but fresh analysis of intelligence about the spread of the virus, its scientific properties, and the work and conditions of China's virology labs. The report was declassified and released on Saturday on the orders of U.S. President Donald Trump's choice to lead the U.S. spy agency, John Ratcliffe, who was sworn in on Thursday as director. President Donald Trump has said he believes the U.S. will gain control of Greenland after showing renewed interest in acquiring the autonomous Danish territory in recent weeks. His comments come after reports that Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen insisted Greenland was not for sale in a fiery phone call with the president last week. Trump floated the prospect of buying the vast Arctic territory during his first term in 2019 and has said U.S. control of Greenland is an absolute necessity for international security. In the Middle East, Israeli forces have shot and killed a 2-year-old Palestinian girl as they step up large-scale military raids in the occupied West Bank. In a statement, the Palestinian Ministry of Health said Laila al-Khatib died of critical wounds after being shot in the head on Saturday by Israeli forces in the Matthias Triangle area of Jenin in the northern occupied West Bank. Media reports said the girl's pregnant mother was also lightly wounded in the attack. The Israeli military said it was investigating the incident and that its troops opened fire on a building after receiving intelligence on the presence of Palestinian fighters. Still in the Middle East, Israel has killed at least 11 people, including a Lebanese soldier, in South Lebanon on the day Israeli forces were due to withdraw under a ceasefire deal. According to a statement by the Lebanese army, Israeli fire killed a Lebanese soldier and wounded another in Mais al-Jabal village. Israeli military spokesman Avichai Adre issued a message earlier today to residents of more than 60 villages in South Lebanon, telling them not to return. The Israeli killings violate a ceasefire agreement reached in November, under which its forces were supposed to withdraw from Lebanon at 2 o'clock GMT today. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed Lebanon for the delay, saying Hezbollah has not pulled back sufficiently from the border region. Lebanon denies the claim and has urged Israel to respect the deadline. Now talking sports, Kylian Mbappe scored the first hat-trick of his Real Madrid career in the team's comfortable 3-0 win against Valladolid on Saturday. The Frenchman's first season in Spain has been disrupted by injury and dips in form, but he looked back to his best as he powered Real Madrid to a 4-point lead at the top of the La Liga table. It took 30 minutes for Mbappe to open the scoring against Valladolid, playing a quick exchange of passes with Jude Bellingham before slotting the ball into the net. He got his next goal from a superb counter-attacking move counter-attacking move in the second half, receiving the ball from Rodrigo inside the Valladolid box and firing a shot into the far corner. With victory now seemingly secured for Madrid, Mario Martin was sent off after a high challenge on Bellingham, and Mbappe was able to complete his hat-trick from the penalty spot. Before we go, here again are the highlights. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the administration of President Bola Tinubu and the Nigerian Communications Commission over what it described as the arbitrary, unconstitutional, unlawful, unfair and unreasonable 50% increase in telecom tariffs. Elsewhere, 13 soldiers serving with peacekeeping forces in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been killed in clashes with rebels from the M23 group. In the Americas, the CIA now believes the COVID-19 pandemic is more likely to have originated from a laboratory leak in China than from animals. That was the world news on Radio